Hey guys, it's Josh with Thick Boy Garage. I figured I'd make a quick little video, talk about my car. I know I mentioned it in the video for Grassroots Round 1. So since we had a quick little break in the Pacific Northwest weather on Memorial Day weekend, I figured I'd try and do a quick talk about it, walk around it, and let you guys know what's going on. So this is my 2000 BMW E46 chassis. It's got a truck 5.3 engine in it. I bought it originally so that I could just drive while I built my other car that we're actually spending a bunch of time and actual effort into. And after purchasing this car, come to find out, this car needs just as much effort and money put into it as my other car. And I think at this point in time, we're going to actually change chassis. But I figured I would explain to you as to why we're going to change chassis and why this car works and doesn't work for when we took it out and used it. So we'll start here, lift the hood on this thing. So it is the 5.3 truck engine. It works. It does good things. It does bad things. I will say yesterday we actually did a compression test on it, and the passenger cylinders average about 90 psi, and the driver's bank ends up averaging 165 psi compression. So the engine has got some damage to it. I was told originally before I bought the car the engine was rebuilt, so I don't know if it was just a bad rebuild or something's broken in it. We're not sure yet. To start with, the steering shaft hits the header. It was dented in to try and clear it, but it still rubs on it, so when you go to full lock, you can't get out of full lock. The engine mounts were just kind of welded together. I'm not sure what was going on with that, but the engine sits so low that it hits the steering shaft and you can't turn when you're actually in drift. They cut the wheel arches, which that doesn't bother me. I mean, everybody does it at this point nowadays. This side's not so bad. This side, they cut it and it's all smashed. I don't know if the car was in an accident at one point in time. It might have been. It's a drift car, so there's a high probability. But they cut too low on the frame rail. And so when I bought this was actually splitting further. So we actually had to wedge this back together and then weld it back together. The strut towers were cut extremely mediocre for the coilovers. It is on BC coilovers with E36 arms that have been lengthened and modified. It does have the full Porsche brake kit on it. So big Porsche brakes, works good. Manual brakes, knockoff Rocket Bunny kit. Some of the downside, as mentioned, is like the bad steering shaft, the mounts, and then all over the chassis in just random spots there are holes. So like there's this hole that's tearing. There's a couple on that side that are tearing. I just can't get to them with it being on the trailer still. We did quickly throw some cheap shrouds over the coolant lines for the rear mount so that we could go out and test it at a last open drift to find out how bad the car was or how good the car was. Turns out it was more bad than good. When they wired up the chassis originally, everything was done in a red wire. Get back in there again. So everything from the front to the back pretty much is in a red wire. So ignition's red wire, fuel pump's red wire, wipers are red wires. It's all red. So trying to hunt down any electrical problems in this thing, look for a red wire. That's all I got. I will say the nice thing is they did do the big Porsche brakes for the hydro as well. So that's nice. It's got a factory Chevy truck radiator essentially in it. We do got the fuel cell. One of the downsides to this thing is they put a M5 diff in it, and the diff axles don't clear the upper spring perches for the coilovers, so it hits on everything. So with that being said, I had talked to BC Racing about it, and they will sell me the true rear coilovers. Not a big deal. The downside though is I have to have the car caged for the rear strut towers to be reinforced, and I have to send them proof of that. Reaching out to a couple places, a cage is anywhere from, the cage starts at about $2,000 and goes up from there, and then the coilover cost on top of that. And I personally, I can't afford it right now. I'm still working a full 9-to-5 day job, and I have kids and a family I have to take care of. So the car doesn't get to be top of the priority list. So it doesn't make sense for me to keep putting money into this thing and letting it nickel and dime me until I can't take it no more. So we figured, I have a spare S chassis laying around. I'm very comfortable with S chassis. I've had a bunch of them. So since I have a spare one in my enclosed trailer that is caged already, and I have WiseFab laying around for it, we figured we will take the LS 5.3 truck engine out of this car, and we will move it to the caged car. So it's something more comfortable. And since we have to pull this engine anyways to rebuild it, it kind of just makes sense to do the upgrades on it, rebuild it, and throw it into a chassis that I am more comfortable in and driving and working on. So it made the most sense. But we are thinking about possibly maybe throwing a turbo or two on this thing before we put it in the S chassis, just for some fun. Maybe make a little extra power. It would be entertaining, but we will see kind of where time goes and financials and stuff like that. I do, in my little tiny garage, I do have a Pro-Am style car we were building. It's a R32 GTST with a LS T56 actual turbo setup for it, that we were waiting for a couple of parts like ECU and stuff like that. But I will, if you guys are interested, and I probably anyways just make a video about that here soon, talk about it, and probably make a whole build thread on it as well. This car we will be taking apart here soon. I'll be filming all of that for you guys so we can actually document everything, and you guys can then see how bad the damage is all around it and how the car actually looks from top to bottom. But currently, that's my car. That's the way it sits. And I will say, at the very end of this, I will say, I don't think all BMWs are bad. I think it's just this one chassis that is ran hard, broke down, and it's time to retire it and send it to the scrapyard. So it's not that I don't like BMWs. I just think this one's a problem because of everything they've done to it. And it's just, I can't afford to try and unmess up what they messed up. And I don't have the money to go buy a new chassis to start over with a clean E46 chassis as much as I kind of want to. So, if you guys like this stuff, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll move on to the next project.